So I'd like to call the April meeting of the Central School Board to order. I apologize for the late start. We were involved in an executive session. So at this time, I would like Board Member Don to lead the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So it's time for adoption of the agenda. We have no changes to the agenda. So I better read this little thing though. It says, welcome to the Central School Board meeting for April. Comments from the community are entertained during the time designated under communication public comments. If you wish to speak to the board, please fill out a comment card and turn it into the board secretary or the board chair at the beginning of the meeting. Speakers' comments in this forum are limited to 3 minutes, but the board welcomes additional information in writing. Personnel laws prohibit the board from hearing public complaints about an individual in an open meeting. All complaints must go through the board's approved process as outlined in Board Policy KL. This form may be found on our website or by calling the district office. Typically, a speaker's comment is taken under advisement to allow time for the board to review an issue. However, the board chair or other board members may ask a speaker for additional information or may convey to the speaker some information that addresses their comment. Please note on the speaker card if you would like to receive follow-up communication, and if so, what avenue is preferred. And thank you again for attending the April meeting of the Central School Board. So we have recognition for it looks like we're going to start with
Mr. LaBounty, could you, thank you. Excuse my voice,
Mr. Glassman will be.
Here we go.
perfect. If you could just give us a little bit of background.
Sure. This is Della Gratzinger. She's a 7th grader here at Talmadge Middle School. So we, every year in the middle school, we run a geography bee competition in kind of coordination with National Geographic that puts it on nationally. So we test all the 7th graders and invite 6th and 8th graders to participate. It's like a 50-question test. It's a lot of fun. We make them do it on a Scantron, and they get to watch it go through the old machinery and listen to the noise. Then we take the top 10 or 12 students grade-wise, so out of 200, 300 kids that score, and they do a stand-up where they're asked questions. We bring someone in, and they kind of do it like a regular geography bee competition where they're asked questions, they have to answer it. Whoever gets the most right is the school winner at that point in time. And this year, that was Della. And so she finished first out of all of the 7th graders and others who participated. At that point, she takes another online test along with about 40,000 other Oregon residents who take it between 4th and 8th grade. She finished in the top 100 of those 40,000 and then was able to attend the state geography bee competition, which was last Friday at Western Oregon University. And there she got to take another test where the level of the questions got a little more difficult. And then if she'd qualified higher out of that, then it would have gone on to the actual, you're standing up and getting asked questions there. She didn't get beyond that prelim round there at the state, but regardless, still to finish top 100 in the state of Oregon out of about 40,000 student competitors is a pretty awesome accomplishment, and we wanted to recognize her for that tonight.
So, Della, this is a certificate of recognition in recognition of her service to Talmadge Middle School and the greater Independence Monmouth community through education. Granted on this day, 1st of April, 2019 at the Henry Hill Education Support Center, and it is signed by myself and the superintendent. And so, you want to present it to her? You have no voice, but you can. Go for it. So does she get a chance to compete again next year?
She's welcome as an 8th grader to take the test again and compete again at the school level and progress through it again next year if she so chooses.
So Della, we expect to see you next year going on to the next level, right?
Now you're stuck.
Hopefully.
No?
Thank you very much.
Maybe we got to ask her some questions.
And then we have,
And I'm going to ask Mr. Omlin to come up and sort of share a little bit. Yes, please. This is a...
Would you like us to sit here?
Yes, please, sir. And this came to me via Principal Servignan from a shout-out that came from one of the administrators, and both of the people sitting in front of you had a big part. So I'll let Mr. Ahmed share a little bit, or if...
Yeah, let me just give you an introduction, and then I'll let Adeline describe what happened. So I've been teaching first aid CPR. Well, I'm a certified American Red Cross instructor. Got that about 15 years ago, and so I've pumped through about 400 students every year to get them certified in first aid, CPR, AED. And I've had several success stories, a couple stories that weren't so successful, but Adeline came to me last week and she goes, hey, I had a cool thing happen to me last week. So here's her story.
So on March 20th, it was actually my 18th birthday. And before I could even celebrate anything, we had a mechanic over at our backyard helping my dad work on a car. And while I was off taking a walk with my family nearby, he had called us on the phone and said that the mechanic wasn't okay. And so we all came down as fast as we could to see what was going on. And it turns out that he was going into cardiac arrest, and he had gone like blue and pale, and he wasn't breathing very well. And so I told him to get him on the ground because I learned CPR. And they put him on the ground, and I began giving him CPR after calling 911, of course. And it continued, the CPR continued for about, I'd say, 5 to 7 minutes, even though it felt like forever. And I was very tired. But my brother also helped me when I got too tired to continue after about 5 minutes. And then the ambulance finally arrived, and while
And
he
I
was...
trained him too, right?
Yeah. While he was in the ambulance, they gave him some treatment, and he actually ended up waking up, and he ended up being okay, and now he's with his family again. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, what I like about Adeline's story was not the nuts and bolts of performing, that she took charge. She goes, hold on, stop it. I'm certified. You, call 911. You two guys, lay this guy out. And then she just started banging on the guy, and knowing that no signs of life, turning blue, got to keep oxygenated blood to the tissue, took charge. And just a little side note, one thing we do is we perform. You know, the protocol is 2 minutes. We perform for 5 minutes. Best case scenario, that's when they're going to get there. And that's about the time it takes to play Staying Alive, to keep our beat. And what was going through your head as you were performing?
Staying alive.
Yeah. So that was a cool little side note.
Yeah, and also a little side note that I haven't told you yet is actually that today on the way home from the school on the bus, I got an email from Rob Fittner, and I just got accepted for pre-nursing at Western.
Oh, good for you.
That's even better.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's all.
That's
So-
our story.
Adeline, we have this certificate of recognition is hereby awarded to you in recognition of your extraordinary personal action to successfully serve and support the Greater Independence Monmouth community, granted on this day, April 1st, 2019, at Henry Hill Education Support Center, and it's signed by myself and the superintendent. So I'm going to come up
Yeah.
and present this one to you also. But
Come up and get your pictures with Adeline.
so
Adeline, go ahead.
what I want you to understand is, I'm a retired paramedic. So I can count on both hands how many times CPR has been successful in 33 years. So you are in a pretty cool spot. Kind of saying 1 for 1, okay? So that is amazing, and thank you. Turn around and face the camera.
So shake hands, hold
You're
certificate.
supposed to hold that like
There we
that.
go, there we go.
Thanks.
Gotcha. It's recording.
The wild ride, let me tell you.
Yeah. All right. So, Mr. Omelette, we want to thank you for teaching those 400 kids
Yes.
every year. That's more kids in our community that know how to take care of somebody. So, we are, somebody from the Power Peers, you're up. Beat that story.
I don't know, that was really impressive. Okay, so we kind of missed February, so I'm gonna introduce a little bit of what we did. But I'm Kendra, I'm a junior in Power Peers. In February, we had the opportunity. I and my fellow youth advisory committee members attended a school-based advisory health advocacy day at the Capitol, and our group spent the day attending lessons on how to lobby, and then later that day we went to the Capitol and spoke to legislators, and our goal was to ask the legislators to continue to support in our school-based health center and how helpful it was to our community and our school. And coming up this month, we also have a Youth Advisory Committee Summit, and that's going to include what we call YACs all around the state, and we're able to interact with them, and they have student panels and lessons and workshops where we can all come together and just kind of talk and see what other committees do that we can include in our own to help make a difference in what we want to do. And our Power Peers sponsors an event called Abby's Closet, and it's where a bunch of mostly juniors and seniors go up and they get prom dresses for free, and they have a lunch, and they're bussed up there on, we're doing it this Saturday, and we have 50 girls attending that, so that'll be really nice. And they're mostly juniors and seniors, and then a few sophomores. And then for our pantry needs this month, we're really low on like feminine hygiene products, deodorant, and shampoo, so that'd be really appreciated if we can get those donations. As you know, we do our Power Matrix lessons, and we just finished with the W of work ethic, and that's what this video grit is on, and we would like to show it to you. But for this month, we're working on empathy, and we want to make this lesson more visual, and we're doing a theme of like shoes and walking in other people's shoes. But Moshe made this amazing video that we showed to the whole entire school, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
Hey, what are you doing with that? You know, the superhero life is hard, but so is real life. Not everything you see in the movies is fake. But like, what is work ethic?
Isn't it how hard you work?
Well, sort of, but it's more than that. Really, having good work ethic means making responsible decisions and never quitting. When we look at the characteristics that define people with good work ethic, it's those that push themselves beyond what is comfortable and never give up. An athlete trains hard in order to build muscle, and they have to keep training harder and harder in order to get stronger. But in order to build muscle, you have to break it, and that can hurt.
But it's not those athletes that have to work hard to get the results they want. I know in the media it may appear that way to get a more dramatic effect, but really, work ethic can be applied to everything in life, from big things to little things.
But still, it seems like it's all about the work, but it's not. It's about the mindset. We've all heard it before, growth versus fixed mindset, but a specific piece of this is not having a fear of failure.
It's really tempting to take the easy way out, and it's not hard to do. But sticking to what's difficult now can help you in the long run. People tend to respond to failure in one of three ways. You can either let it stop you, drive you, or define you. Let's take a look at this in the classroom.
If you allow failure to stop you, it means that you never try again and you never get yourself back out there. This happens to students a lot when we fail tests. Yeah, it's simpler to just forget about it, but often we're given second chances.
If you allow failure to define you, you will look at yourself as a failure and not someone who has failed.
But if you allow failure to drive you, it means that you're going to learn from that experience and let it move you forward. Shh. Sorry. The important thing to remember is that just because you fail at something, it doesn't mean you are a failure. And this applies to everyone.
So the next time you feel like quitting or afraid to fail, just remember everybody goes through it and it's part of how you grow.
Can I give you another hot coke or something?
Nah, I'm feeling better.
Good to hear. Hey, I haven't seen you around this area before. You new or something?
Nah, I was just having a hard time dealing with my new responsibilities. And I need a break.
You know, a wise person once told me, with great power comes great business potential.
That's a good slogan, but I'm not sure this is a business problem.
So what's up?
Well, it's sort of what happened because of this dude named Ownership Man. You know him?
Yeah, I actually do.
Have the whole school in it. We don't need to watch all of it.
So, your turn. Now we have the Central High School ASBAC.
Don't forget to come to pageant at 6 p.m. the 13th, April 13th, to raise money for Dornbeckers and support senior pageanteers. Spring Fling Week is the 22nd. And the places you'll go in choosing a theme, we chose Dr. Seuss. Blood Drive is the 30th. And lastly, very importantly, Staff Appreciation Week is on May 13th.
That was short.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. So do we have any public comment cards? Nobody brought anything? So do we have a CA rep? There's finger point going on.
Hello, my name is Kelly Cutsforth, and
Hi, I'm Dale Cutsforth.
and we teach at Talmadge Middle School, and we're here today because we just need to publicly thank a couple people in our community who have really gone out of their way to support the kids at Talmadge, and that is Tom and Sally Puri. In the last 4 years, Tom and Sally Puri have donated $22,500 to Talmadge Middle School's programs. And they just, Dale and I first approached them about 5 years ago and told them about this reading program we were starting. We were just having lunch with them. And lo and behold, a check came in the mail the first year, and with a note to Perry, support them however you see fit. And then now it's kind of built, and the district adopted Read 180, and we're thrilled with that because now it is a sustainable program that is far-reaching, and it is making huge differences in kids' lives. So it is important work that the district is doing, and Tom and Sally Puri have stepped up on their own and supported these kids. And when I was watching that grit video, I'm like, whew, those are our reading kids. Because the kids that we have in our EPIC program come to school every day and they find ways to be successful, and reading is tough for them. And so they have been finding alternative ways to be successful at school. And I'll tell you one thing, those are the kind of kids that I would hire. They know how to fail. They know how to handle failure in positive ways and move forward. They are truly the backbone of our community, and I feel like they're some of the smartest kids we have in our school. So, and anything that you could do to recognize Tom and Sally would be deeply appreciated. So, and that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So it looks like we're down to C's.
Thank you. And I'll have just a couple brief things for you this evening. The first will be the budget to actual appropriations report. So that again just kind of shows you where we are, and that this time of year where we're getting to make those kind of adjustments, we know where programs are going, budgets have settled in, so we do have coming up in your business agenda a couple of transfers, but within a fund between functions, the kind of thing that does not require the formal hearing. And so with those adjustments, everything is looking good. There are no questions about the appropriations report. The other thing included in your packet tonight is some more detail about that food service negative balance. We had discussed the food service budget is taking a hit from lunch accounts that have been going past due, and we, because we are able to feed kids and in spite of their balances, those things have tended to go a little bit longer. We have been working on those. We've had some extra staff coming in and making phone calls in addition to the normal notices that go out. And unfortunately, our softwares don't quite speak to each other. People cannot go online and see how much is in their account or their balances, and so we're trying to find either new software that'll do that or ways to work around that. But in the meantime, sending emails, sending notices out has kind of kept people on the alert. So you had asked for some more detail, so included in there is a report that Alex has prepared, and this was as of the beginning of the month, and it really shows that those negative balances are pretty much spread between all of the schools, and it shows the percentage at each school of the total negative. But as you can see, a lot of those are in sort of that $10 to $20 range. We have at the beginning of the month, 1,600 student accounts that had some amount past due for lunch, and 60% of those were under $20. So those kind of things were catching up. People would fluctuate in and out of that pretty easily. But there are several very large accounts, as you can see as well. And then the bottom part is broken down a little bit more on what are called active accounts versus non-active or inactive. The inactive would be people who have transferred out of the district, either seniors who have graduated or families who have left the district and did not clean up their accounts before they left. Those are the ones we're focusing on currently, trying to make sure we can recover some of those from folks. Again, these others, a lot of them are fluctuating. They'll be paid up and then they'll get a little behind. So, but it is considerable. It's a considerable amount of dollars. The federally funded school lunch program, they cannot write off bad debt. That has to be done out of the general fund, so we have to make them whole. We are currently looking at the current year budget to determine about doing that, but it's something that our auditors are not requiring we do immediately because it's fairly new to be this far behind, but we will be coming up in the budget. There will be money budgeted for the future for this sort of thing.
What's the trend, Cease? I'm trying to remember kind of month over month what that negative balance is.
Right. It has fluctuated. Again, this was sort of the beginning of March. Even by right before spring break, it was down quite a bit from this, right after the first folks paid. So, but it has, probably a year ago at this time, it was about 45,000. So it's gone up considerably. And again, that's a little bit of a change. We are not the only ones in this boat. Districts all over the state are wrestling with this problem and are looking at methods. Other districts have going out for collection agencies on sort of persistent past due accounts. We're not even considering that at all. Other districts have made other arrangements with families of ways to pay. We've got some things we're looking at there. But we do know that our free and reduced numbers are going down. That's partially because of folks just not being willing to complete the paperwork, even though every time we make these calls or we reach out to people, we always remind them that if their circumstances have changed, maybe they didn't qualify in the past, they might qualify if they've had any change in family circumstance, and we can enroll a family at any time of the year. So they are doing really a good job of trying to get folks who might be in need to apply and consider that, but Alex will be looking at some other sort of creative ways to help people get through this. And we've talked in the past about the community eligibility program. The only school that would qualify for that is IES, but even that, running those numbers, that would still cause a loss to the program of overall funding, and it has to be at 75%, and they're right there. So any changes in that poverty ranking or the free and reduced applications, they would drop below that. And so there's a concern at this point that that program and its definitions, the way it's currently defined, we may not even be eligible for very long in it, unfortunately. So, and the rest of our schools don't qualify any longer. So
I think you're going to see more legislation start to come forward. I think you're starting to see the conversation across the state, especially in the administrative and the superintendents. There are some school districts that are hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt because of their breakfast, free lunch types of things. So I think it's something we'll have to continue to pay attention to, and obviously it's going to be a big part of our budgeting this year.
So we're in, what, 78 almost 79,000.
We were at the beginning of the month again. Right after that, we got some collection in, and so I don't know what the number was right before spring break when they finished up, but they got a little bit ahead of that, but not a lot. It's considerable.
But we're not allowed to, if somebody's behind in their thing, you still have to feed them.
Right, yeah. The lunch shaming laws, we used to feed kids. We always want to feed kids, but we used to offer an alternative meal. We could offer a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or something as an alternative, and that has been changed. So now we offer them a full meal. And we used to be able to send notes home with kids. That was sometimes an easy way. They got those home, and we're not allowed to do that any longer. So we rely on the mail and email and phone calls now with folks.
The government discussion.
Okay. So,
any other questions? So we're down to your report.
Yep. I'm going to
Which she
struggle
has
through
no
it.
voice.
I'm going to go quick. So just a couple policies, as I shared with you in the Friday report, we have done over 150 updates in a year, which is fantastic. We're about down to, after this group of policies, we'll be about at 22 left. They're some of the more difficult policies, and we'll continue to have conversation with the subcommittee if we need to actually have other committee work done by parents, students, et cetera. So I'll continue to work with Director Klein and Director Mann on the last 20, because some of them are significant ones. So I'm going to just go as quickly as I can, and it'll be minimal with my sharing. So the first one is IICC under instruction for volunteers. This is a language change to the policy in regard to just how volunteers are cleared in the district and schools. Gives us a little bit more flexibility of when we will or may be able to do that. The second one is IGBHA, specific to alternative education programs. These are just minor changes to the policy specific to Oregon administrative rule numbering changes. That is really the only changes to that policy. You'll also see in there the AR, the administrative regulation for information only, and again, it's just dealing with changes to the OAR numbering. And then we had incorrect district offices. So it was the old district offices, so that has been changed in the AR. IGBHB, in-district alternative educational programs. Again, this is minor changes to the policy specific to there's an accreditation policy process, and so that group has had a name change. So you'll see that name change to Northwest Accreditation Commission. IGBHE, which is expanded option programming. And this is changes to the policy with language that expands options and really is focused on giving priority to at-risk students. So our alternative or expanded programs would be focused on our at-risk students or even potentially students who have dropped out at school. So we are going to come with a report here shortly. We have a blended new alternative school that we have piloted this spring. Again, that expanded options that we'll continue to share information about. So again, and there's some minor formatting changes to that policy. The next one is JEA, and it's under students, parts of the policy specific to compulsory attendance. And really this clarifies the age of enrollment in public school, specifically really dealing with enrollment for kindergartners. So really that young age, the 6-year-olds, that for the process for parents and legal guardians, if they want to delay. So you can work through a process if a student is 6 and delay it, but you have to go through a formal process. So that changes now in that policy. And then it also gives exemptions for emancipated minors who who have already initiated that process under Oregon state law. The next one is admission of resident students. Adriana, could I ask a huge favor? Could you get me a water, please? This is a minor change to the policy specific to language referencing modified diploma, and then referencing guardians and the board. It was referencing the district. Sorry, y'all. It's been a rough few days.
Would you like me to read this?
I don't know that we need, do we need to torture you anymore?
We've all read them.
So I guess, is there any questions?
Yeah.
They seem pretty straightforward.
Why don't I read you comment if there's any comments? How's that?
Would you like to read the one on communicable diseases?
I'll read it. You make any comments you feel
Yeah.
are necessary. How's that? So we were
Hold on, I got you. I'm good now.
you were on JEA, right?
Yes, JECA is really focusing on attendance.
Okay. School-age students who live within the district attendance area between the ages of 5 and 19 shall be allowed to attend school without paying tuition.
And that's just state law.
So JHCC, communicable disease students, the district shall provide reasonable protection against the risk of exposure to communicable diseases for students.
And there's just published guidance from Oregon Department of Ed and Oregon Health Authority now.
Okay? So JHCCF, which is our head lice policy, in order to prevent the spread of head lice in the school setting, district staff shall institute guidelines for classrooms that will assist in the prevention of and the spread of head lice.
The big change here is when we had lice eggs, we had to remove kids. That is no longer the case. So if the eggs are there, they can still be in school. They will have random checks, so we don't have to remove them from school anymore.
So, KBA, public records, a request to inspect. What? Oh, KBA, public records, a request to inspect or receive a copy of a public record shall be in writing and will be presented to the superintendent's office.
Yep.
Next is.
That's it.
Are we still? That's it. Oh, that's
That's
the
it.
other batch. Okay.
And the only other thing that I have that you'll see in the business section is a request for the change to the calendar due to snow days. So right now, based on our calendar, just for the licensed staff without the makeup, they would only be at 189 days of their contracted 191. Classified are also 2 days short. So again, we just want to make, and classified varies depending on bus driver versus instructional assistant, et cetera. So we've been, again, I think it's important for us to be fiscally responsible based on what our contracts are. The other thing that we've been working on, I've been working with Principal Servigna to make sure our senior hours are enough. And based on the way the rules are written and what we can use for senior hours, we are fine. Should we have any other closure day, we will not be fine. So I just want to make that clear. So you're going to see in the business section a recommendation for the 2 additional days. We built that into the calendar already. So originally, we were to end on the 11th with the add back. Then we'd go, the last day of school would move to Thursday, June 13th. Friday would be a grade day, and then Monday and Tuesday would be the work back days for staff. So that's going to be my recommendation in the business section for approval.
So.
And I'm no longer talking.
The next thing, board report, upcoming activities. We have a budget committee meeting on April 15th at 6 o'clock. Have we got all the folks we need for the budget committee?
No, we still have 2 vacancies, but we'll
Have we
operate
had,
without
so
them.
the vacancies are in what zones?
They were in Steve's zone. I'm sorry, I didn't prepare that since we.
Okay.
Now we'd have to call a board meeting before the budget meeting for you to approve anybody else. So
Okay.
I don't know that we'll have anybody, but if we do, I'll let you
All
know.
right.
Because we could now appoint them from anywhere in the city, in the school district boundaries, if somebody came along.
So then our next board meeting is on May 6th. And after that, another budget committee meeting on May 20th. And we're doing that all without seeing what the budget is for the state. That's all well and fun. Oh, yay. Graduation is on the 7th of June. And we are down to the consent agenda. So, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
So it's been
I make a
moved.
motion, we approve the consent agenda as.
It's been moved by Peggy to approve the consent agenda and seconded by Jerry. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. So that gets us our second reading on all the other policies that you've been working on. And so we're back to cease again.
Yes, so these are the aforementioned resolution transfers in your packet, or your pocket if you folded up your packet. And the first one actually is a continuation of our discussion about the property casualty replacement, the portable out here at Henry Hill, and taking some of the expenses we would have been normally in the 2000s category, support services, but in order to reflect the total expense for this, I'm proposing to actually move those down into the 4000s, the capital projects, so that is all accounted for in one function area. So that would be, would require a motion to resolve to make the following budget resolution transfer.
See, does the insurance payment show up in revenue, or does it show up in expense?
Yeah, it shows up in revenue. It's already there. It's called replacement of fixed assets is the revenue item code.
So do we have a motion for the resolution transfer?
I move that we move $15,000 from account 2,000 support services to account 4,000 capital projects.
Second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Does that fit your needs? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Explanation on the next one.
So the next one is all of our grant funds, our student body funds, basically all of our special revenue funds other than food service. And again, because a lot of those are federal grant programs, sort of the plan for the grant may shift. In this case, we had a lot more intended in support services. We've been able to move into direct instructional services, which is a good way to go. We also had some money set aside in case we were granted money to do community services, and that's more community outreach type activities. In the 3,000s, and I'm going to also ask that you resolve to transfer those to direct instruction, just to sort of balance out the planned activities for the rest of the fiscal year in our grant and student body special revenue funds.
It's their turn.
Their turn?
I so move.
No, we're not letting her off the hook. Christina, they're all looking at you.
Well, I don't know why they're doing that. So what is the proper verbiage that I need to use to make that motion?
Could take the easy way out and do what Jerry did and just say, I so move.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor, raise your right hand. And then the last page is
calendar.
Just the
Is this still
calendar.
up for discussion?
You have to make a motion to have a discussion.
Say that again?
Someone needs to make a suggested motion before there can be discussion.
You reviewed this with administration, CEA, OCA, everybody?
We have had conversation, and that's partly why it was built into the calendar originally, for the additional snow days. In negotiations, we did remove, there were other snow days that we had designated, but we didn't agree to that. So this is, again, if we have one more day or another day, I mean, should there be something else that happens, then it will have to go back and have discussions with both unions,
So,
because we do have 3 built in.
so this calendar still sort of showed the snow day on the 19th. Do we still have a snow day in the calendar?
Yes.
Okay.
I just have an additional day,
I would move,
because you never know what's going to happen.
I would move that we accept the calendar as presented.
Motion to accept the revised calendar.
I'll second.
Seconded by Steve. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. So we're down to comments by individual board members. Anything from the floor?
I would just like to thank the superintendent for working through a little transportation issue over spring break for their choir trip. I think that
So I want to
was
thank everybody that's been working on those, because that is just a lot of work, period, going through and checking them all and everything else. And what did you say, we're down to like the last 10 to 20, and they're probably the most difficult ones?
No, she's talking about transportation. There was a little bit of,
I was thinking about.
no, the policy, but
We had a choir bus breakdown full of students and chaperones, and it just happened to break down near Tacoma, Washington on a Thursday late afternoon. So somehow we have connections there, and within a very short period of time, as we had a Washington State trooper breathing down our necks, telling us to get our bus off the side of the road, a mechanic from the Tacoma School District showed up, had called their towing company, had the bus towed to the Tacoma School District yard, and gave us a loaner bus for the weekend. Our mechanics were a little concerned about even bringing that bus back home, so Mike Cook, our acting transportation manager, and our mechanic got in another bus here on Friday, drove up, swapped the Tacoma bus at a restaurant parking lot in Seattle, drove the Tacoma bus back to the Tacoma lot where they had repaired our broken bus enough to get it home. And those guys got home at midnight. Everybody else got home last night, and here we are. So, but yes, it helps to know people.
So was this one of our newer buses or one of our older
Moral of the
ones?
story to send the new buses up?
It's a known issue. It was a battery cable. So it's a known issue with that style of bus. It's one of the older buses. It's a Thomas. Now we're buying Bluebirds, so.
Like I said, going on a long trip, take the new bus.
Yeah.
Well, the propane buses are a little trickier to take on long trips because we don't know for sure where all to get propane, but.
There's got to be an app for that.
Tacoma.
Were you on the bus that had to stay on the side of the road, or were you on the bus that got to go?
I ended up not chaperoning, but my child was on that bus.
Yeah.
That was mine.
Yeah.
I had a couple of pictures of sad kids for a little bit, but I'll just say that I made a quick phone call, and when you have people that believe in all children, I think it makes it easy decisions to help out. We would do the same thing for them if they were caught down here too. So again, I know that, it's just trying to help kids out and allow them to have different opportunities of learning and be successful. So it worked out.
So the other thing is, I was starting to say, I didn't hear where you were going, but I want to thank everybody that's been working on the different policies. I know people have been spending a lot of time, and we have
I think 22 left, but they're the 22 hard ones.
22 left, and we've gone through everything, and so we'll be up to date, and then hopefully all we'll be doing is a little bit of maintenance and
That's the
and
goal.
like. And so thank you guys to everybody that's been working on that. So
It's true.
if nobody else has anything, upcoming activities, it says adoption of the calendar for 19 and 20, budget meetings in June, student fee schedule is going to be up again for review, and the review of the ESD contract. And if nobody else has anything, we are adjourned.